It might be a movie.
Hmm.
Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is spinning on the ones and twos. I try to come calm and come nicely today, and I get made fun of right off the jump. Fam, come on.
Come on, fam.
Fam, this is a special show because last night we were just doing a ton of research, making a ton of phone calls, talking to a lot of people. This is the kind of stuff that we have been talking about for a long time. So naturally, a lot of our connections reach out to us, start talking about what's going on. I've been talking to people I haven't talked to in months about everything from the voter rolls to the systems and the software.
People who we were talking to during the primary when Bernie Sanders was getting cheated by the Democratic Party. And, we were talking to all these election integrity people. We had some of them on the show. We were talking about the machines and stuff. And everybody was so excited, to talk about this stuff because, everybody likes Bernie. Now that it's Donald Trump, nobody wants to talk about this. And in fact, it is a very lonely place right now to be talking about election fraud on the left because you get called all sorts of things, a right-winger, I got called a crypto fascist, I don't know, just all these things, all this vile hate. And it's one of the loneliest places to be. I would say as lonely, if not more, than the civil liberties, free speech thing on the left that I see my Assange people going through when it comes to Julian Assange, when they're like screaming, free Assange, and nobody was listening. This is just very similar, especially because, Pasta, I know you would agree, nobody's getting this right. And the right gets in their own way with the stupid shit that they peddle in there. And it's muddied waters, fam.
Yeah. They don't help their...
They don't help their case.
They don't help their case at all. And sometimes, we were beating back on them. All right, guys, let's get together. We're going to talk about this, but we want you to stop using the term voter fraud. Start using the term election fraud. We have to be clear and present about who we're talking about here. And it's not the actual voter. It's the actual election rigging, what's going on.
The system doing it.
The system doing it. Now we have another situation today. We'll talk about, once again, the ghost of Hugo Chavez and all this shit coming into it. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, and I was even like a little bit, I was feeling like, looking over this stuff yesterday, I'm like, why are we even talking about this shit? We're alone on this. Nobody's really grasping. Even our people we respect and love on the left are getting it wrong. You know what I'm saying? And despite what was said today on a negative side, there is so much data, there's so much analysis, there's so much stuff we're going to talk about because there's different ways of looking at these things. What we showed the other day when I was showing the Bernie segment about Bernie versus Biden in Texas, I also ruled out the fact that they can be flipping numbers with a computer. So I shouldn't have said it's just a dump because there's ways they can flip it with a computer, but that's the whole thing, fam. Every aspect of our elections is dirty, bad, and we need to change it. Everything from the mail-in ballots, absentees, to where they check the signatures, to where they're made, where they come from, to where we vote that takes forever, that's broken down on purpose that we believe, to the tabulation machines that now people are finding out that, Smartmatic is from Venezuela and it comes from over here. It's like, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We knew this 3 years ago. We were following this stuff because we know, and once again, we might not be able to point to exactly who's switching stuff, but we know there's a lot of people with the keys to the kingdom. Mm-hmm. There's doorways that are blocked, meaning there's proprietary software. There's all these hurdles. But, I want you to take a look at what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to show you the basic raw data and analysis and why we think these elections are bad and why we need to straighten them out. Because it's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It's about getting these elections fair. Right,
You have 4 years. 4 years until this happens again. I mean, not even 2 years on the congressional level because progressives constantly get cheated. But I'm talking about the presidential election, the primary. Oh, you guys saying Tulsi 2024, Nina 2024, AOC 2024, whatever freaking candidate is your dream candidate. This is going to happen just like it happened to Bernie Sanders. And then thereafter, it's going to go whichever way they want it to go. And as I have been doing a lot of research on Biden's picks, these videos that I will be releasing shortly, it gets even more nefarious because the more you look into who Biden is putting in his administration, the more you're like, holy crap, we will never, ever, ever have any sort of semblance of democracy in our elections ever again. Yeah. The people he is putting in for the election oversight, forget about it, guys. It is absolutely nefarious.
Yeah. And Red Sea Socialist says the right is getting it right, but for the wrong reasons. And I think it's being done on purpose to muddy the waters. Once again, we don't even know who the players are here. Like when I still say, is Donald Trump involved in this whole kind of like kabuki theater?
Right.
But a lot of the stuff he was talking about, a lot of the stuff the right is talking about right now, really needs to be addressed, because we understand also the behavior of the Democratic Party, especially in California. They like to cheat their elections. They think they're morally entitled to. They think the ends justify the means, and we've seen them plain and simple say, well, we're not going to change the results despite cheating because the math doesn't add up. All these reasons where you got to go, hey, man, can we just get some simple, clean, fair elections? I think my high school in 12th grade had better elections, more clear and transparent than what we're seeing over here. I mean, it really is disgusting. And this is the bedrock of our democracy. If we want to have people who are going to represent our populist views, we need to get the right people in there, fam, and make sure that they're elected and not selected. And everything that's in our way is going to make sure that they're selected and not elected. So
absolutely. Let's get to it.
And I just want to say, those people who are getting it wrong on the left, those people that I admire, I love you, but I think you guys should come over and take a look and see what we have to offer. And by the way, you have a super chat from Sarcasm Stardust that says, "Solidarity,
hey,
sister."
Aw. I love Misty. Misty's great. Go watch her podcast.
Hi, Misty.
Guys, the right is getting it right in the sense there is election fraud, but they're also muddying the waters a lot. And I just want to reiterate that fact. There's no nuance in this discussion. Either you believe that there's fraud or you don't, and then this is why we're in the middle, and it's a really hard place to be because there is fraud, but you have to go about it the right way, and you have to stick with the evidence and not kind of sort of just hop onto this thing of, okay, now everything is a conspiracy now. Like, I hate when the word conspiracy is used, because the people using that word 99 times are the ones that are lying and telling you that there's nothing wrong. And that's the conspiracy.
Yeah. So far we have 163. Jump on in. The water's warm. There's only 56 likes and 0 downs. No trolls this morning. Let's get some thumbs up before the trolls get in here. And of course, if you haven't joined us on our Rokfin, we need you to go over there, ladies and gentlemen. That's a great platform. We really love it, and we need you to go over there and sign up for free if you can. Rocky Bellinger's there. Aloha, fams. We love you.
Hi, Rocky.
It is free to sign up. If you have a few extra bucks and you can endorse us for $9.99 a month, please do so. You get everybody's premium content across the board.
More people are joining. I saw that Lee Camp actually joined Rokfin the other day, so that's interesting. Yeah. More people are joining.
Absolutely. And the other day, YouTube was shut down. A lot of people were hoping that Jimmy was going to go live on Rokfin. Who knows, if YouTube keeps shutting down, maybe this is a place where people will be going live. And you can join in the fun if you want. As far as the investments go, you can go on if you have a crypto wallet or a Coinbase and all that stuff. You can get yourself some Ethereum. Yeah. Transfer it on over to Ray with the Ray token, which is part of the Ethereum network. If you don't know, Ethereum's like the next in line. I'd say to Bitcoin are the two biggest families of coins. Ethereum, Ray token is over there, and it's just going up right now. It's kind of cool, and you can join in that fund. You can buy some, hold on to it. I always say, fam, right now in this kind of global economy, if everything shuts down, which we're assuming there's going to be another crash, whether it be Trump or Biden there, right? Yeah, it's good to have some crypto in the back end. You can dip your toe. You don't have to put all your investments in there, but go in and dip your toe at Rokfin with us. Support us. Share the Rokfins and help drive up the price of the coin so you can make a few dollars while we make a few dollars, and we can all love each other and be cool. And they don't suppress us and shut our voices out, right? Very important thing. So let's get this rolling. Thank you again, Misty. 91 thumbs up, just like that. Ooh. So this is interesting right here because this doesn't often happen, fam.
Yeah, okay, so Donald Trump has a case, right? He's made several demands and lawsuits as to why he thinks this election was fraudulent. And also we're going to talk about why the CIA may want him out. Now, first of all, William Barr authorized a probe. Okay, he did this a few days ago where he authorized the Justice Department to a voter fraud probe. Now, again, this is where I get irritated. Good. It is election fraud. It is election fraud. It is election fraud. A voter fraud is individuals. If Pasta goes in there and tries to vote twice, that's voter fraud. Election fraud is on a massive scale. You're not going to get these numbers with voter fraud. People aren't just going to go and volunteer to commit felonies because they love Trump so much or because they love Biden so much. This is on a massive scale. These numbers you get is because of voter fraud. So I just wanted to point that out real quick, that William Barr initiated this probe. That was a win for the Donald Trump administration and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I think a lot of people too are trying to say that the ballot harvesting, if one individual grabs a bunch of ballots and he brings it in, that's voter fraud. No, who is he doing on the behalf of?
Right.
Is the question. That becomes election fraud.
Exactly.
You know, I think a lot of people are hung up on the right. Excuse me, I'm not trying to pick on you, but this whole mentality that, we need to have IDs, and we could have that argument and stuff like that. But it's not individuals that are going to go in there and overturn the election. Right. The Democrats are not going to talk to their socialist friends and get a bunch of illegals to go and swing the election. It's not going to happen that way. Is that something we need to address because we want to make sure we have free and fair elections? Of course, but you got to keep your eye on the right spot and where these elections are being swung, and it's not being swung by the individual voters. It's being swung by somebody who's got the keys to the kingdom who we haven't found out yet. You know, I obviously think it's the Democratic establishment, but it might be the elite.
I think it's the establishment, period. And there's some Republicans in there, the Bush types, the McCain types, and then there's some Democrats in there that are doing this right now. Yeah. So to me, that's what's going on here. So
I believe that too, really quick, because Fox is now taking a free fall because they've kind of taken a stand, and you know, the whole Virginia thing, which we're talking about a lot of these states. We haven't even got into Virginia yet. Yeah. And I remember Johnny talking about Virginia, going, check this out, like, look at this, and he pulls it up. Donald Trump's still up by like a ton of votes, 60% in, but yet they called it to Biden. You know, so there's a lot of fugazi stuff going over there as well, but it's kind of crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say too, CNN today projected Georgia for Joe Biden and projected
Arizona?
Not Arizona. They projected Arizona yesterday, and then they also projected North Carolina for Trump. People are saying, no, they project it, but the way they project it, people take as calling it. Yeah. That's the thing. When I say, they're projecting it, people argue, well, they never actually said that. No, that's how they get away with it. They put it all over media as if they're calling, as if it's fact, and people take it as fact, even though they can back off and say, oh, we never actually called it. Yeah. But that's something that they do, just so you know, because I've gotten a lot of attacks on that, and I'm like, do you not realize what they're doing here? So Donald Trump has these assertions, right? And here are some of them. The non-valid ballots, for example, dead voters who moved, and just in general non-valid. And then the machines and the software flipping is the other one. So here's the evidence. You want to go ahead and go?
Well, he's saying that the ballots were illegally brought in, or they're not allowing poll watchers from the other side, bipartisan, to go over there and validate those signatures. They're keeping them out. And there's a lot of inaccuracies, which we see. And this is just normal behavior a lot of times. It's never been called out, never been taken to the courts, and it's something that should be looked upon.
It's nothing new.
It's nothing new, but it's a little bit different in this case because we had the COVID election with all these ballots, and it's nuts. And as we go back in history, when we go down the road, when we look back in history, we're going to look at this as the COVID election. But that's the thing, and those things are kind of mentioned in the lawsuits. But also, too, the way we have to look at these things when we talk about the machines and the software flipping, they're mathematical improbabilities seen by parabolic effects, which we were just talking about right now, by mathematicians studying pattern analysis, okay? Yeah. So I know that's a little bit like we were talking about this, this is why this stuff is so boring, but we were looking back on this stuff. When we look at Tim Canova, as you know, I'm friends with Tim Canova. If you haven't seen the video, he's a friend of the show, and we talk about election integrity all the time, especially when it comes to software flipping and what happened in 2018. And the mathematical probabilities were just off the chart that he was able to get, that he was locked into 5% on each line in each category, whatnot. So he feels it was some sort of an algorithm. Now, you can't get in and expect the software, but this is how a lot of mathematicians and, like I say, pattern analysis. I never knew what a parabolic effect, like I told you guys. I thought it was when you had the, what do you call it, the Multilinean Falcon, and it takes off and all those white lines. I thought that was a parabolic effect, but I was watching Dr. Shiva yesterday, and he explained to me, and you probably know this, and Johnny knows this, you guys, you A in your statistics, is when you're charting something and you can see this normal kind of, line going, and all of a sudden there's an effect where something happens. It's a red flag for pattern analysis to go, wait a second, something's wrong here. We saw it with the Biden Bernie thing, it was going along, and all of a sudden it was this big, huge spike. Well, there's a reason for that, and elections just don't work that way. Because when you think about all the mail-in ballots that come in, the majority still come through the mail. So it's like a deck of cards getting shuffled. So usually it will be set early, and that kind of trend will be set early. That's why when you see it get to 40%, and when it's okay for the establishment to call it at 59%, well, he goes, we can see the pattern the way it's going. Bernie doesn't have enough room. So when it works to their favor, they'll call it early. But in this particular situation, we'll say, wait, let's hold on. And then you have this parabolic effect of all these votes coming in for Joe Biden.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's normal. Yeah. No, it's not.
They should have. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stopped the count and said, oh, well, we're going to let people go to sleep and continue that. If they had been fair, they would have completely just across the board kept everything going as normal. The fact that they stopped in every swing state is already a red flag, aside from everything else. That is a red flag in itself. And the mainstream media coverage is, of course, a tool that they use to make that happen.
Yeah. So you said the majority of these lawsuits, Trump's campaign's lawsuits were filed in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. There were some losses today on the state courts in Michigan that we can talk about eventually. But there's still a lot of stuff going on. And remember that at the end of the day, if he needs to go up to the Supreme Court, he's going to go kick it up there. I suspect he's going to try everything, every weapon he has, he's going to use until this is over. Now, we were talking about this other day. This tells about a lot of the behavior right here in Pennsylvania. And I think also that there's a smoking gun here. So I'm very interested to see what happens with the lawsuit in Pennsylvania, fam.
So, so let's just look at the lawsuit. I'm not going to read all of it. You guys can look it up. It's right there. Most people haven't looked, except on the right, haven't really brought up this lawsuit. They've just brushed it off. So this is what he has, and this is the complaint. And so the number one, the introduction goes, American citizens deserve fair elections. Every legal, not illegal vote should be counted, and no government power, be it state or federal, may deny American citizens the right to observe the process, which, by the way, they both have been kicked out. But
Johnny's been kicked out twice now.
Yeah, so this whole independent observers observe. No, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen.
You kicked out in Florida and California, so.
And then they said, we must protect our democracy with complete transparency. We don't have either of those right now. Nothing less than the integrity of the 2020 presidential election is at stake in this action. Defendants, the very officials charged with ensuring the integrity of the election in Pennsylvania, have so mismanaged the election process that no one, not the voters and not President Trump's campaign, can have any faith that their most sacred and basic rights under the United States Constitution are being protected. Again, this has been happening for a long time. Bernie Sanders should have done this in 2016.
Yeah.
We would have him as president right now. This is nothing new. Welcome, Republicans, to looking at what has been happening for a long time. The evidence is plain that defendants have been and are blatantly violating the protections and procedures, including those enacted by the Pennsylvania General Assembly, vitally necessary to ensure that the votes of the citizens of Pennsylvania are not illegally diluted by invalid ballots and that the election is fair and free. The general election was effectively shrouded in secrecy. This is the third point. Democrat majority counties provided political parties and candidates, including the Trump campaign, no meaningful access or actual opportunity to review and assess mail-in ballots during the pre-canvassing meetings. This is very true. And of course, the vast majority of the election this time, because it was COVID, were mail-in ballots this time because it's COVID. So this is an unprecedented time where you are going to be looking at the mail-in ballots. Even though normally less people vote by mail, this time a lot of people voted by mail. And as Pasta said, it's not about the conservative votes coming via vote by mail. It's about the older votes and the people who are also less likely to waste time in line. So again, the people who are ardent supporters are going to go in line. But again, they also diminish the amount of polling locations and stuff because of COVID. So and they were talking about Pennsylvania, the counties in particular, and they processed 682,479 mail-ins and absentee ballots without review by the political parties and candidates. These are unprecedented numbers in Pennsylvania's election history. Rather than engaging in an open and transparent process to give credibility to Pennsylvania's brand new voting system, interesting that they have a brand new voting system, the processes were hidden during the receipt, review, and opening and tabulation of those votes in direct contravention of the electoral election code.
So that as they get into this lawsuit, it gets deeper about what they were doing and the tactics they were shutting people out. Johnny,
the key thing that they say there is open and transparent process.
Yes.
It's not open and transparent
Yes.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere we've been, it's been fucking secretive.
Yeah.
And 99.9%. And as we get into this whole process, you guys are going to also learn too. And everybody's going Dominion. No, all the other companies have the same capability in their machines to flip votes. In fact, it's not a bug, it's actually a feature within these computers if you put an algorithm in there. So, and we were just talking to Raj, and he was talking about as soon as you put a USB cord in there, you can implement an algorithm. You can probably hide an algorithm before you even get things started.
And
you know
Clay Curtis said it takes nothing.
Nothing.
Like for somebody that's a programmer to write a program and do what is whatever. And you can make it look like it's close. That's the whole part, is that you make it look like it's close. You don't make it, you're not going to make it look like it's like, obvious. It's like, no, these programs are specifically written to make it look like it's close.
Yeah. Did you want to read anything else about this one now?
Yeah, I'm just going to
This is a long one. It's 105 pages, and there's a lot to look at.
I was only going to look at the 12 points that we have.
Cool.
And then
number 7?
I think number 8. Okay, so she is quoting here, the right to vote is protected in more than the initial allocation of franchise. Equal protection applies as well to the manner of its exercise. Having once granted the right to vote on equal terms, the state may not, by later arbitrary and disparate treatment, value one person's vote over that of another. This is, of course, citing the Bush versus Gore. This is important because, of course, that set a precedent. And unfortunately, then the Republicans were the ones doing the cheating. And as we all remember, Bush became president. We went to Iraq. Yeah. History, the rest is history. We could have done something then. We didn't do it. And, of course, history repeats itself. All citizens, including Pennsylvanians, have rights under the United States Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. As evidenced by numerous sworn statements, defendants' egregious misconduct has included ignoring legislative mandates concerning mail-in ballots, which amounted to over 2.6 million of the approximately 6.75 million votes in Pennsylvania, including the mandate that mail-in ballots be postmarked on or before Election Day, and critically preventing plaintiffs' poll watchers from observing the receipt, review, opening, and tabulation of mail-in ballots. Those mail-in ballots are evaluated on an entirely parallel track to those ballots cast in person. So again, they were kept out from watching. Now people say, oh, they could watch. No, they were barred from actually being able to see what was going on. This is how they get away with it. They completely.
Yeah. Well, they hide. They get. They don't let people get it. Listen, the main point of certification of a mail-in ballot is matching signatures. That's how you validate these across the board in every single state, okay? That's the main mechanism which we make sure these things are good or not good. Now, when you leave one party out or people out and you just have, your own people in there, of course people are going to kind of question the validity of these signatures and stuff. And they're even using AI software, which we talked about the other day, fam, where they're turning down the sensitivity really low.
Right.
So, the whole thing is that these ballots are going through without the proper validation, and therefore that gives you a mechanism to stuff the ballot box with unvalidated, not good ballots. I don't want to say they're dead people, fictional people, who knows what they are. But if you can't sit there and match the signatures and you can't match the voter,
right,
you're just leaving an open door for fuckery.
Okay, so these people observed and reported in numerous instances of election workers failing to follow the statutory mandates relating to 2 critical requirements, among other issues. 1, a voter's right to spoil their mail-in ballot at the polling place on Election Day and to then vote in person. And 2, the ability for voters to vote provisionally on Election Day when a mail-in ballot has already been received for them, but when they did not cast those mail-in ballots. So again, the provisional ballots come in here. We know all about provisional ballots, okay? The provisional ballots have been used countless times to disenfranchise people, specifically the more progressive voters who are voting for the more progressive candidate. We've seen seas of provisional ballots that I assure you were not counted in this election. So this is nothing new.
Here's the thing too, California's adopted this way now. Oh, if you have a mail-in ballot, you can go in there and okay, they look you in the database, right, John? We did it the other day. You want to vote in person? We'll cancel your ballot through the computer, and then you go vote on the machines. Now you can do that here. Pennsylvania doesn't have that mechanism yet, and a lot of people don't. So if they say, oh, I'm sorry, you have a mail-in ballot, oh, no, I didn't get my mail-in ballot. Well, you can vote provisionally, and then maybe we'll count it after. So there's more ways also to kind of once again put fences and barriers in front of people, you know what I'm saying? Just by simply, and how do you change people's registration? So, it's not, I can take out a voter registration paper and put out John's name and his address and change him from Republican to Democrat if I have his basic information. And then when he goes to vote and say, I want to vote in the Democratic primary. Oh, you're registered as a Republican. Oh, can I switch? Oh, yeah, but you only get a conditional ballot now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to screw with people's shit. That's why when we get into this whole thing, there should be automatic registration for everybody when they turn 18 18 years old, no matter what. I mean, that's what we should be doing.
They muddy the waters too much, and that's done on purpose.
Yes.
And this one, I really want to read this one of these last points is, additionally, plaintiffs have learned that certain county election boards were mailing unsolicited mail-in ballots to voters, despite the fact that they had not applied for a mail-in ballot
That's
for
what
the
I'm talking
general
about.
election, thus resulting in voters who received 2 ballots. The offending counties also failed to undertake any effort to ensure destruction of the duplicate ballots. I have to say, I was mailed a vote by mail ballot in the primary. This last primary that I never signed up for.
Yeah.
I never signed up for vote by mail, and I was mailed a vote by mail ballot. I am telling you that happens. It happened to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never signed up for that. I wanted to vote in person.
Yeah.
And so, does this happen? Yes, it
Yeah.
happens a lot.
In this particular case, I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about the voter rolls and stuff. Anybody who was on that voter roll got a mail-in ballot sent to them. So people who didn't request them in California got them, and they did this in a lot of states this time. Then you got to start thinking, where do those mail-in ballots come from? If they're sent back, where do they go? Where do they end up? There's just ways to stuff a ballot box and get this machine to give you the count you want. So when they're giving out like confetti, it's just cause for red flags all over the place. Go ahead.
And just the last point, the right to vote includes not just the right to cast a ballot, but also the right to have it fairly counted if it is legally cast. The right to vote is infringed if a vote is canceled or diluted by a fraudulent or illegal vote, including without limitation when a single person votes multiple times. The Supreme Court of the United States has made this clear in case after case. Gray versus Sanders, every vote must be, quote, protected from the diluting effect of illegal ballots, end quote. Crawford versus Marion election. There is no question about the legitimacy or importance of the state's interest in counting only the votes of eligible voters. The disparate treatment of Pennsylvania voters and subjecting one class of voters to greater burdens of scrutiny than another violates equal protection guarantee because the right of suffrage can be denied by a debasement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote just as effectively as by wholly prohibiting free exercise of the franchise. Okay, so, they're focused on mainly the ballots not being legal, the ballots not being verifiable, et cetera, in Pennsylvania in particular, because there was also that part where they said that they had the ballots that came after shouldn't have been counted, so they did win that victory, which we'll go over.
That's up next. Trey Wright, love you all. Speaking the truth. Thank you for the
Trey.
super chat contribution, guys. And we love the fact that stay strong, Convo. You were right. Thank you so much. From
you guys.
Carl FXI for the super chat contribution. I don't want to miss anybody, but we are going to go over that right now. Let's talk about that because that kind of gets into what's going on as far as what happened in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't read it, try to at least glance through it so you know where that's coming from.
So now we were talking about what was also going on in Pennsylvania the other day as far as the Secretary of State going outside of over her head and outside of her litigation abilities. I mean, in other words, she went to the courts and she was able to at first extend the day of when these mail-in ballots can come in for 3 days, okay?
Right.
But this is the Secretary of State of her name is Bakhchar. I can't even say her name right there. Kathy. She's the Secretary of State for Pennsylvania. She went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and extended the deadline by 3 days in which ballots can come in. However, it states clearly that the legislation is the only one who has the right to make those decisions. So the courts did rule the fact that they put these ballots aside. Now, Biden still has a lead there, whatnot. He was going to be able to add to his lead if they counted these ballots. So now they're going to put them aside. So as you can see, this court case and what Giuliani's trying to do and the Trump campaign is trying to do is they're trying to eliminate some ballots, okay? Devalue them of sorts, saying these were not validated. We have to take these out of the count. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're trying to do that in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, whatnot. Disqualify ballots and say they are not good for the count because they weren't properly looked, they weren't properly vetted from other people, from the poll watchers, whatnot. Right. They were just illegally put in the machine, so therefore you have to discredit that, take it off the count, then flip the state to Donald Trump. That's the course of action, what he's trying to do.
Right. So I just want to comment on that real quick. So normally, I think we should have more people vote. I think you want more votes, you want more democracy, you want all of this. But the Democratic Party has never given a damn about extending any sort of deadline. In fact, just this primary, they literally worked in tandem with the Republicans in Wisconsin to stop the extension of during the whole COVID thing. stop the extension of these ballots. By the way, because guess who would have benefited from that? Bernie Sanders would have benefited from that. So this action where they're like saying, oh, well, this is disenfranchising a lot of voters. They already did that. So again, if we don't have a system where everything's fair, you can't just pretend and say, well, this is disenfranchising now because it suits my political ideology. They didn't give a damn. They actually stopped those ballots from counting. They stopped people from voting. They stopped the Green Party from even being there. They literally worked so hard to disenfranchise progressives during the primary.
Yeah.
And they got away with it because they screamed COVID, and no, we just need to get this done and blah, blah, blah. So now the whole retort to this is like, oh, are you on the side of disenfranchising voters? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm on the side of, if you had something that was already set and now you're backtracking just because it's convenient from you, I'm sorry, that's wrong. We should have already fixed it before.
And it's funny too, fam, because you talk about this because they really condition progressives to think this way because the way they cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016 was by subtraction. Okay, purge voters from the rolls in Brooklyn, close down polling places so they can't vote, disqualify their ballots and push them into provisionals in California. So they won addition by subtraction, right? In this particular case, when it comes to Donald Trump, they didn't suppress any votes. They added to the count, you know what I'm saying, by stuffing the ballot box.
They did that too in this primary for Bernie this year more than they did in 2016. Yeah.
That's what they did. They inflated their counts. Because once again, once the election integrity activists catch on in one area, a lot of people were looking into the software as far as the election integrity activists. They were pointing their fingers there. But then it seems like they moved over to the mail-ins and kind of inflated it that way because once again, once you catch on to them, they keep on moving around. They throw about CIA tactics, 20 things out there. Hopefully you'll catch on to 10 of them, but the other 10 will work. Now, when you talk about what's going on in Pennsylvania, when it comes to the Secretary of State and her overstepping her boundaries and doing things with the elections that she shouldn't be doing, to me, this here is a smoking gun. And I don't know how they can validate this election with what was going on here. Before the election, the Secretary of State sent out a guidance concerning the examination of absentee and mail-in ballot return envelopes. And it pretty much goes off the whole case about what they're doing. When you talk about canvassing an envelope, that means opening it up, looking at it, whatnot. And they did this whole process in which they said they verified the signatures through the envelope. But if you look through this guide that she sent out, and she sent this out to all the election officials, and if you go to number 3 in the very, very bottom, Johnny, if you can put that up, because this is the most important thing. The way mail-in ballots are validated, they're supposed to be validated bipartisan, both teams looking at it, and you match the signatures. If the signatures match, it's good. It's the number one mechanism in which they use to validate ballots. In fact, they're using machines to do this now, but it is the number one method in which you can say that a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot is valid or not. It's the signature. It's all in the signature. Now, if you look at the bottom right here, she goes through all these things, and she says the Pennsylvania Election Code does not authorize the County Board of Elections to set aside return absentee or mail-in ballots based solely on signature analysis by the County Board of Elections. That's smoking gun right there. You can't do that. You can't say that it does not. You do not authorize them to put aside a mail-in ballot that doesn't have a matching signature. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. That's how you validate she's overstepping her boundaries again. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out because to me that's like no. The way you validate a mail-in ballot is bipartisan, both parties looking at it, making sure the signatures match. She's telling people to ignore this stuff. She's telling the Board of Elections to ignore that stuff. Fam, I think this is a smoking gun, but who knows nowadays? Maybe they'll get by this, but to me, no.
So essentially, she's telling them don't check the signatures on the ballots. And like we went over on Wednesday, even that alone isn't even enough because the machines are supposed to be validating these signatures, haven't been vetted. They've actually been found to be completely untrustworthy. And the people are supposed to do a 1% audit of these at least. And most of the time they don't even do that. And that's dependent on the county. It's dependent on the freaking poll worker, what the poll worker is told to do. Yeah. You know, we're not even blaming the poll workers here. This is like way above their pay grade. Yeah. And so that's what's going on right now. That's the reality. possibility. And I think you're right. That would be a smoking gun if people were paying attention. But unfortunately,
yeah, I mean, really, to tell
don't
the
get
truth,
wonky with this.
Pennsylvania is just stuff in the ballot box, and you're going to say there's all these ballots can come in. You know what I'm saying? You don't even have to check the signatures. She's telling, this went out on September 11th, she's telling the Board of Elections not to set aside return absentee or mail-in ballots based solely on a signature analysis.
And
what are you supposed to check it with?
And the twist is, we want to make sure, spread democracy. We want to make sure that every vote counts and that everybody who wants to vote gets to vote. And that's the spin. It's like, it's not that I don't want people to vote. I want people to vote, and I want their vote to count in a system that's fair and transparent.
Yeah.
We don't have that right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Pennsylvania. More news from Pennsylvania. Biden stopped from adding to his lead. That was the next article. Just pretty much the ones that were set aside. The Secretary of State and the Board of Elections did set these other ballots that came in late, set aside. Remember, she tried to extend it by 3 days. Only the legislation can do that. So that was removed. And then I just have in the next tweet, just inside that box, Johnny, I just want to get because I couldn't find it anywhere else. It says the court concludes the respondent, Kathy Bachchavar, I can't even say her name, in official capacity as Secretary of the Commonwealth, lacked the statutory authority to issue November 1st guidance to respondents
Buchvar?
county. Yeah. Buchvar, I can't
Kathy
even say.
Buchvar.
But pretty much she just went outside her capacity. She overstepped her ability to do what she's supposed to do. She's not allowed to do that. In other words, what they're saying, she can't extend it. It's on the legislation herself. So they did stop them from adding on to their lead. And a couple people now, both houses in Pennsylvania are owned by Republicans. They're controlled by Republicans, but Pennsylvania rank and file lawmakers demand legislative audit before certifying election results. That's the next one. This is kind of interesting right now because this is the body saying, do not certify these results, these election results. Do not certify them. We want an audit. We want to go through this stuff. We want to make sure it's okay. So once again, for the Electoral College to vote, it's usually they take the certification from the state and they go from there. So if they're trying to block this on the state level, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know if this is enough, but they are kind of standing up and saying, no, don't certify these elections. And yeah, so we'll see what happens in Pennsylvania. A lot of stuff going on there. It seems like there's enough to really kind of, and here's the thing. I was thinking that a recount in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Michigan and Wisconsin wouldn't be good enough. We need an audit. We need to look at these ballots. Yeah. But if there's computer flipping going on, the hand recount might be enough to shorten the lead or whatnot, or see what's going on. Once again, I still think we need an audit because there's too many ballots going in that are they're not validated.
I think you need an audit, or a hand recount is just not
a hand recount. It's going to be interesting. It's going to see if the numbers are moved in a hand recount. That means the computers are plain and simple. They're flipping votes, or they're not accurate, or something's going on.
Which is what I'm trying to see here in LA County, but the machine-generated tally report that they, that they look against for the hand-counted 1% manual tally has not been shown to us.
Yeah.
And they've been delaying showing it to us. They've been delaying. There's no reason for why that shouldn't be there. And the fact that it's not there before they're hand counting, and if it automatically shows up after they're done hand counting, that means that they probably put whatever numbers there to verify their faulty machine.
Johnny, they're manipulating the law again. It says that you have to compare a 1% audit, right, to what's going on. The only thing is they used to give you the numbers first, you count after to make sure it match. Now they're asking you to do the counting first and stuff, and then they'll pull it up later so it matches up. Right. They're manipulating the law, and that's what they do in every single sense of the way. These states, when the body gets in there, they manipulate the laws as much as they can. Just as like we talked about the open source when Alex Padilla tried to change the definition. Oh, we have open source, but he tried to change the definition for the open sources. Oh, we're going to give you a 1% audit, but you're going to count first, and then we'll match it up after. So whatever you come up with, we'll go cherry pick the computer and make sure it matches.
Right.
It's a bullshit Fugazi audit. It's not for real.
100%. So just to reiterate, Georgia's chief election official announced a recount of the presidential results. So Georgia is
underway.
That. And CNN today, like I said, projected that Georgia's still going to go to Joe Biden. Of course, that's their projection. We don't really know yet. It hasn't been called. So we'll see what happens.
We'll stand by. I mean,
we'll see what happens with
there
that.
Were not some today. There were some bad losses for Donald Trump in the courts. You know, he got denied in, I think, in Michigan in the state court. Yeah. He got denied in Pennsylvania, another case or something. There's multiple cases out there, so you're going to see some get denied. It's the ones that stick. We'll see what happens. And once again, it's not about getting Donald Trump across the finish line. It's about having clean, fair, transparent elections.
Do you know why they denied it?
I didn't look completely. They said that it was not enough evidence to go forth. That it was pretty much just.
So if Trump thinks he has evidence, he could take it to the Court of Appeals.
Yes.
And then
he could take it to a state court. He could take it to a federal court, and if that doesn't work, eventually go to the Supreme Court.
Because these courts are also, unless you're very naive, these courts are definitely influenced by the people in power. So if the people in power surrounding the courts, and you know that here, don't want this to be heard at all, they're going to say there's not enough evidence. They always, it depends on the Secretary of State who owns it, the territory. It's like gangsters. It really is. It's like this is my gang. This is the other one. It depends on what it is. And Johnny's going to talk about that more in a minute. But
it's kind of like, too, we had this whole case with Stacey Abrams and what was going on in Georgia. Now, a lot of people in the election integrity activist community were really pissed off that they took it to state court rather than a federal court because they felt that Georgia wasn't going to overturn the rules no matter what. They're going to protect their own state. So a lot of election integrity activists were pissed off saying, hey, man, why are you taking this to the state court? You should take this to the federal court. But instead, they chose to go to the state court, and then they got shot down, wasted a lot of time and money, and then tried to kick it up again. But it cost a lot of money for these court cases.
Yes.
This was a state court in Michigan and a state court in Pennsylvania that were denied. So he's just going to keep kicking it up, but he's going to start at one level and keep going until he runs out of options. So your boy John Brennan.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So John Brennan, as you know, is a spook. That's like my favorite word lately. Spook. And John Brennan is the one that is basically calling for a coup. Now, a lot of people on the left, like Cenk Uygur, have been, Kyle Kulinski, all these people have been calling this a coup, saying, oh, Donald Trump is staging a coup. He wants to take over this country, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want to step down from power. That idea didn't just start now. The Democrats have been pushing that for months, saying that Donald Trump's not going to step down. He's the tyrant. He's going to want to stay, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that. I feel like if he literally loses, he's going to step down and Joe Biden will be the president. Yeah. I 100% don't believe that Donald Trump's just going to stay there because it just doesn't make sense to do that when you lose. Like, I think he's going to try to win, but I think there are a lot of people in this party who are part of the establishment he's pretty much alone. And there's not that many people with him on this. So
with Trump,
yeah. So this is he's basically urging, okay, because remember he was the ex-CIA director. He's basically urging a palace coup against Donald Trump to stop these declassifications, which is kind of like you're making Trump look better than he is by saying that he's pulling all these declassifications. And so John Brennan told this to Chris Cuomo, saying he feared the president could declassify sensitive information or give military orders that would undermine U.S., quote, national security interests. I love those three words, unquote, and urged Mike Pence to actually seize power. So this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. And I have to get it from Sputnik News because nobody else is talking about this. How the hell are you going to want... Mike Pence is worse. Like, I don't want Mike Pence to seize power. What's wrong with you? Like, in what world is that a good thing? So let's play the video because there's a video. And just let's hear it for a little bit and then you can do that.
Hold on, so you're telling me a spook is scared of what Trump is going to do in the last 70 days in office. That's kind of interesting.
Right?
There.
Isn't that telling?
That's really interesting.
To me,
this guy is the guy should be locked up. He committed a crime. He was part of the coup against Donald Trump to give the American people false information that Russia tried to hack our elections. And which, by the way, I guess we're clear of Russia hacking these elections. Now it's going to be China.
It's so dumb.
So stupid.
Former CIA Director John Brennan. He's got a new book out, by the way, Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening, Chris.
So people hear this news, that's Trump being Trump. It'll pass. What are they missing?
They're missing what is a very, very worrisome development. It's clear that Mark Esper was removed as Secretary of Defense because he rebuffed Donald Trump's efforts to politicize the U.S. military. And I think it's quite apparent from the reporting that Mark Esper has stood up to Donald Trump repeatedly. Who knows what else he has refused to do? And the Secretary of Defense position is, I think, the most consequential position in the U.S. government aside from the President of the United States, because it is the Secretary of Defense who carries out the orders given by a president for military operations. And if Mark Esper has been pushed aside because he is not, listening to Donald Trump, carrying out these orders, who knows what his successor, this acting secretary, Chris Miller, is going to do if Donald Trump does give some type of order that really is counter to, I think, what our national security interests need to be.
One more rebuttal to his shoulder shrug. 70 days. He'll be gone in 70 days anyway, once the Electoral College meets and we have the inauguration.
70 days, you can do a lot of damage in 70 days. He still is the president of the United States. And is he going to carry out these vendettas against other individuals, as you pointed out, Chris Wray or Gina Haspel or others? It is clear that Donald Trump is trying to exercise the power because he can, and he is going to settle scores. But I'm very concerned what he might do in his remaining 70 days in office. Is he going to take some type of military action? Is he going to release some type of information that could, in fact, threaten our national security interests? So I think people need to be looking very carefully at what he's doing. And unfortunately, Republicans in Congress continue to give Donald Trump a pass.
All right, so this is the key question. What can be done? Short of him messing with the Electoral College and trying to have Republican or friendlies pick their own electors and, go grand scale with faithless electors, what can be done to stop anything he wants to do in the next 70 days?
Well, if Vice President Pence and the cabinet had an ounce of fortitude and spine and patriotism, I think they would seriously consider invoking the 25th Amendment and pushing Donald Trump out, because he is just very unpredictable now. He's like a cornered tiger, and he is going to lash out. And the fact that, again, that he has the powers of the presidency in his hands is quite worrisome. Now, we know that the Attorney General Barr has done Donald Trump's bidding in the past. Will he continue to do that vis-a-vis this election? I don't know. But I do think it's something that the members of Congress, the leadership of the Republican Party, really needs to send clear signals to Donald Trump that if he continues to go along this path, they are going to put up roadblocks.
What do you make of the Attorney General saying that his investigators before the Electoral College will look at substantial allegations of voting irregularities? As you and I both know, irregularities is not a legal standard or any kind of criminal rubric. But what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's an unprecedented move. And again, since William Barr has shown that he is willing to be Donald Trump's personal defense lawyer as opposed to the Attorney General of the United States, I am concerned that he's going to be looking at this in a very one-sided manner. And so I think this is something that hopefully the state attorney generals and others are going to stand fast. And also the Department of Justice professionals are going to carry out their duties irrespective of whatever type of political winds they feel are blowing their way.
John Brennan.
Okay.
Deep State Spook. John Brennan with us. Later on, we'll have James Clapper for more advice on what we should do. CIA running our country. This really, to tell you the truth, I don't know, you probably couldn't see my body language, but I sat back in upset disgust and just disbelief and what's going on in this country, and that the left is completely pushing CIA narratives. It's counter against our national security needs, and we're listening to this guy. This guy should be locked the fudge up, and yet
you people are choosing, a lot of people are choosing to believe in CNN, New York Times. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I got thrown like, well, the AP and CNN, they know what they're doing. The AP
they're
calls,
experts.
they're experts. They have their
experts.
Why? Since when did you become a bootlicker for the establishment? I mean, let's be real. Just because you hate Donald Trump so much, this obviously has nothing to do with Donald Trump. I mean, they're scared. They are scared that this guy is just gonna get angry in his last few days.
Is he gonna expose?
And he's gonna expose. But these are so. Okay, so a lot of the Q people kept saying, well, Donald Trump's going to expose and blah, 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 blah. And it would be hilarious if he did. I don't count on it because I still think at the end of the day, Donald Trump is part of the elites. He is a billionaire. He has a lot more in common with these people than he does with you guys. So, but I think they're scared of that possibility because he might get angry and he might be, you know what, screw all of you. And he might start releasing and declassifying. He has declassified some things. Like, this isn't coming out of nowhere. So it's just really interesting to me. And the fact that so many people are just buying this narrative, do you not realize that you're agreeing with spooks like this guy? You're agreeing with CNN, with MSNBC, who, by the way, 3 of these people left to go work for Joe Biden's campaign already. Did you know that? I mean, It's absolutely ludicrous what's
He
going
should
on
go
right
nuts
now.
right now. Donald Trump should go nuts, fam. He should
Free Assange.
Free Assange. Pardon your boy. Hey, pardon your boy Stone, Flynn. Then free Assange.
Election
pardon Assange,
integrity.
Pardon Snowden. Just go crazy right now. Start pardoning these people that are going to really piss you off, because you know Brennan and Clapper would be so upset if they pardoned Julian Assange and let him go. They would be so upset. They've been after that guy for so long. Jim Garrison said, "Here's a $5. Thank you so much."
Thank you, Jim.
Natural Progressive /
Thank you.
Roar. We love you. Roar Media. You know, guys, like, share, subscribe. We got 220 people with the thumbs up, 5 people down. We don't have many trolls today. And then here's Sergeant Hootie. Is it Hodel or Hodel? I can't
Pastor,
even.
remind me. What do we know about Mark Esper?
Mark Esper was just fired. He was one of the.
But before that, you know what? Is he a spook? Is he a super spook?
I mean,
is he like one of those spooks?
He yeah, but he was once again he was a he was a leftover from the Obama appointees, and a lot of people felt that the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that Donald Trump didn't clear out enough of these people, that a lot of these loyalists are still intact over there, and they're actually working against them. That's why we're trying to see where his allies, who aren't his allies, whatnot. This guy was also pushing against too, as well as far as like the whole investigating of the election, whatnot. He was like, well, no, I'm not even getting involved in this. And there was a couple people like that. There was another guy, I forgot his name, who also quit too as well. So a lot of people said this move was coming. Once again, I didn't look closely enough to see it because I didn't have enough knowledge within DHS to know who's what. I know who the big players are and who's part of the Clintons and the Obama leftovers. But this is the thing. A lot of people thought that, when Donald Trump got in, he should have cleaned house completely in DHS.
He said he would, but he didn't.
He left a lot of people that were leftovers that were Obama loyalists, Clinton loyalists, Democratic Party loyalists. And as we know, there's been a civil war going on. We talk about Clapper and Brennan. They got caught, once again, planning to have a soft coup against the president when he got in. Yeah. So you have people like McCabe and all these other people that were still left over that eventually got fired. But, I mean, he didn't clean the swamp inside the intelligence community because there's still a lot of people involved.
There's just so
it's
many.
So hard to do that, and the power they have. And that's what this is showing you right now. The power that the intelligence community has. They have the media in their pocket they can use. They can set a narrative. They can go there and they can say Bud Trump and get away with whatever they want.
And
their neocon ways.
And a lot of these people are buying it. Even on the left, the progressive left, they're all buying it. Like, you're going to start trusting these people now all of a sudden because you hate Trump? Come on, guys. Clear your head.
Okay, so listen, this is a great one by the Sarge. Thank you for the super chat contribution. Says, thank you for speaking up. Heart, Eileen, libertarian. I disagree with you all on BLM and defund the police, but we agree a lot with legal drugs and wars, censorship, and election corruption. Wish Bernie and Tulsi stood up to this BS like Trump is now. And that's the thing listen, this is somebody who disagrees with BLM and the defund the police and stuff, right? We can disagree and stuff, but we should be able to agree that our elections, and put the other stuff aside, but our elections alone, we should all agree that we need transparency and fairness because the people's vote should count and not nothing. People should have confidence in the system they're using, not split against it.
People should have the ability to vote for those things if they want them, and it'll show what this country wants. Right now, none of the things that the vast majority of Americans want are getting through, not because their people aren't going out there and voting, but because their votes aren't counted properly. Because we have a system where there's no democracy, there's no transparency, and therefore people even stay out of politics because it doesn't matter. And if they do pay attention, they pay attention once every 4 years when they're told to vote because it's the most important election of our time. Every single fucking time they get told that time and time again. This is the most important election of our time. You can't vote third party. You're helping X person win. Every single fucking time we get told that. Stop buying into it. Nothing matters if your election system is rotten, and it is rotten, and there's no democracy, and we're screwed. And until people realize that it's a nonpartisan issue, it's a bipartisan practice that elections are rigged, we're going to continue repeating this process over and over again. Outrage for a little bit, then everybody goes back. And especially with Joe Biden, he's putting a bunch of spooks all over his administration. It is going to get worse.
And not only that, they're out there, the mainstream media, the Democrats saying our elections are sound. Even people like Bernie Sanders, our elections are sound. This is about the individual.
Bernie, they fucking cheated you twice.
Yeah,
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
Bernie Sanders has no right to say, and the stuff he was saying about the early counting, you know, and even John, when he was talking about this stuff, looking at what he was looking into the Raji Rob case and seeing what's going on now, it's like identical in certain situations.
Yeah.
They're using the same language. They're talking about the same things. It's really just a system that we need to get under control. And thank you very much for saying those words, Sergeant, because we are taking a lot of crap. And even Mona Carmona says, thank you for the super chat contribution, Mona.
Thank you, Mona.
Hey, I know you all are getting a lot of crap over this election fraud crap, but I appreciate everything you're doing. Love you guys. You better believe it. We're not, and somebody made a claim out there that we're trying to make money off this stuff. This is not profitable for this. Everything we've been talking, it's very boring. It's very tedious. It's very like, oh.
It's a lot of work for little gratification. It's profitable to be a fucking grifter. You know who the fucking grifters are? The vast majority of progressive media out there focusing on, oh, let's mock Trump supporters. Oh, let's pretend that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and all these people handed the election to Biden. And let's pretend that the Lincoln Project is actually the one we have to worry about. No, this is like that is the grift right there, trying to get you to be like, back into the Democratic Party. Oh, yay, AOC, yay, Bernie, yay.
Yeah.
Sheep herding people back into the Democratic Party. That's where the grift is. I could make so much money by being a fucking sellout.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that. And he's not going to do that either.
Well, thank you for not. Well, fam, I don't know if I won't do it. I haven't gotten offered a price yet. Let me see how much it is, and maybe I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? At this point, what's the point? Because like you get stupid shit like you're talking about, oh, Rashida Tlaib really delivered for Joe Biden and got 92% participation rate. Listen to what you're saying. I think you had a fee about a fee rant. I think you had a fee tweet about this, right? 92%. Do you know the improbabilities of that?
Well,
it's like 1 in 52 fucking million.
I think that's what he meant. He it was a very confusing tweet, but even the percentages that we're seeing in Wisconsin and Michigan, there is no way that you got like 89% voter turnout from a county that was getting like 48%. You're gonna tell me that Joe Biden is gonna push people to vote? Oh, that Donald Trump? Oh, because they hated Trump so much.
Yeah, please.
That much to vote for him, and
Yeah.
no libertarian candidates and no Green Party candidates.
Come on. I mean,
right.
MPADAD, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Thank you. Love you, the Convo Couch plus the Convo Couch chat. P.S. F these spooks. Everybody start to use your word now, fam. You go spook crazy, they go spook crazy.
Spokes.
Progressives are always talking about how we live in an oligarchy, but yet we have a democratic election process. Yeah, okay. Oligarchs decide. You better believe it, Mona Carbona. And Darren Levy just chimed in. What is the betting Bernie? Whoa, it just jumped on me. Where's it at? What is the betting Bernie will support Biden's regime change wars? He has a long history supporting Dem wars and won't be critical of Biden or Harris. You better believe it. Bernie Sanders was never the best when it came to foreign policy.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. We talked about Bosnia and stuff. And since I'm reading super chats, might as well get them out of the way. James 777JI, Smartmatic was used to cheat Vice President Marcos of the Philippines in 2016. The fake VP there to be removed in SC next year. Thank you for exposing electoral fraud. We'll get into the whole Smartmatic thing and everything. Also, I just want to say thank you to those people who are over on Rokfin, Kathy Looney, Fred, Edward, Pasta, Whatnot, Jardula. Thank you, Pishman, you asshole. The Progressive Update, Carrie Mark, Holly Horn. We love you all. Joe, GOE, go. You guys, get over to the Rokfin. Help us out. We don't know what it's going to be like on YouTube down the road. They are censored bastards. Here you go. This one right here, fam. Last one.
Yeah, so
you got a twit.
No, just so people were calling, like I said, just calling this a coup because Pompeo basically said that it was that it's going to be a smooth transition of power into a second Trump administration. So everybody and their mother freaked out. Oh my God, they're staging a coup. They're going to stay in power, and this is all a result of the fear mongering from the Democratic Party. We don't need to listen to that. Let's move on because we're running.
And also to tell you the truth, we also understand that who tried the coup on the left, as far as a soft coup, trying to remove Donald Trump since he got in there with Russian intelligence, supposedly Russian
which all came
gating,
out
whatnot,
to be false.
and stuff. All right, so let's talk more about the election fraud in Michigan. That's the second topic for the day, and what we talked about before about the parabolic effect and all this other stuff. What's going on? This is something I heard months ago. When I was looking into this, we always looked into the whole situation of the voting patterns because they're very, and I looked at the voting patterns because I was very curious the way a lot of the networks would call these elections with 55 in, 60% in, and they say, well, there's voting patterns which come on in, and they don't really go outside the margin, and they stay consistent because when the votes start coming in, it's almost like a deck of cards being shuffled, and they're going to come in Republican, Democrat, especially when they come in through the mail. So you'll see this line in this graph. Now, I put in here right off the bat, and I encourage everybody, John, make sure this has got almost 700,000 views now. Make sure we put a link so people can go and watch this whole thing because I can't explain it. In fact, I bet you guys can explain this stuff if you've watched it. I had to watch it twice because it was so confusing. But what a parabolic effect is and how pattern analysis, this is how they get the red flag and they start looking for something. Well, that's not right. It's what I looked at when I saw how Biden is getting almost triple the votes when he's taking a lead against Bernie than the pattern that was set. So take a look real quick. He talks about what a parabolic effect is.
Basically has done a lot of data analysis. We're going to share with you some of the graphs he's done, which are very, very illuminating. But Benny and others like John Brakey in our U.S. Senate election in Massachusetts, where we clearly knew we won, but we did something interesting. We went and did FOIAs, and we asked for the participating voters, which means the number of voters who actually voted, which is this tan column, and the number of votes cast, which is the actual ballots. And what we found consistently in at least the 7 cities they gave us data, there are more votes than voters. Okay, so this was something illuminating. Then Phil Evans got involved, and Phil looked at the data of our votes in Franklin County, for example, where we won, the only county where 70-80% of the votes are hand counted. We found out that as the number of votes proceed, you see that the votes. These lines represent our vote accounts. Mine is the red and my opponent is a blue. You notice they flatten. And this is how curves should look over number of votes, they flatten. However, in all the other counties where the votes were machine counted, the votes do not converge. They have this parabolic effect. Right, Phil? And that parabolic effect, Phil, is one of the big indicators of something going on, voter issues or election fraud. Am I right, Phil?
Correct.
Yep. So that's what we're showing here. So anyway, that's the background. Let's jump into Michigan.
Right.
So the reason
Now, I didn't really put a lot of parts to cut up for this next part coming up, but once again, that's the parabolic effect they're talking about. You saw the way the lines...
So the only thing, the only thing he's mentioning here, Paz, is that it's not a straight line. It's just, instead of being a straight line, it's in the shape of a parabola, which that's the shape of a parabola right there. So that's what he said. That's what he means by parabolic effect, saying that. Yeah, it's not like how the previous graph showed. It's like, that looks pretty normal if you're looking at counts or ballots and stuff, and then the fact that it goes to a parabolic effect like that's pretty interesting there. That's and this is because it was machine generated,
right? Versus hand counted ballots.
Versus hand counted. See, so hand counted, well, you get that, which yes, but literally machines, and you get a parabola, like, that's F equals X squared. That's Y equals X squared. Put that in a calculator.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm not good at these things. Like, I'm pretty good with numbers
calculus.
From my bookie days. You know what I'm saying? I understand spreads. I watch them. But, that's the thing. And he says this is how they start catching things. And what he had learned in this analysis, fam, is that in Michigan, you can vote 2 different ways. You can vote either down the party line, all Republican, all Democrat, or you can vote for individuals. And he did a study, and he found out that in more Republican precincts, there were less people voting for Donald Trump individually, more people voting for the party line, and actually that's where the votes were flipped to Joe Biden, that they were saying, okay, this is not right, something's going on. Right. And the other guy that's with him, his name is Beanie Smith. He works closely with Bev Harris. Bev Harris is the one who talks about fraction magic. Now, they'll go into some stuff in this particular video, and they'll explain to you the way our votes are stored, and it's stored in metrics, in numbers, like point, which is something that shouldn't be happening because one vote is one person and whatnot. And that just shows you the way these kind of algorithms can go into play, and they can fraction stuff off, and that's the fraction magic. And if you watch the screen, you'll see it will never go outside that realm. It will always stay that way. So that means the machines will flip votes from one candidate to another to make sure that the algorithm that was implemented, into the computer stays true, and they get the results they want, not the results that actually go in. So now he has some analysis and some discussion right here. This is 1 minute 41, 44. to 42-44. Johnny's going to play it real quick, and he's going to tell the results.
Any changes? Okay. So what's the discussion? So those are the results. Let's have a discussion here. So the algorithm, we believe, is a weighted race allocation method. It's a transfer of a percent of votes from one candidate to another. As we've discussed, the percent is a weighted decimal value, and we can calculate it as we get more data. But clearly, the weighted race method, and one of the things is the weighted race, as we mentioned at the outset, is a documented feature in election systems as early as 2001. And all major vendors, we had a discussion about that, right? It's not just Dominion, it's all of them are believed to have this feature. Diebold, as we showed in 2001, had, maybe it was earlier, but Bev Harris's work uncovered it was originally in the Diebold systems. Am I missing anything there, Benny?
No, that the breakup of the election industry started with Diebold. So all of the software that the other vendors probably would have used, the source code would have originated from the Diebold.
Right. Yeah, right. So
all right. So once again, fam, his analysis, this is a weighted thing. It's an algorithm that's put in the machines. And it's funny when it happens in 2001, because in 2000, they won the election, what? Hanging Chadge, moving people from the voter rolls. In 2004 was the first time they stole it electronically in Ohio when they did this analysis after, and they found out these machines were messed with. They were flipping votes. This is Clint Curtis. This is the stuff we talked about. And the people we have talking right here, Dr. Shiva, went to MIT. A mathematician, engineer, scientist, the whole 9 yards. He's got all these credentials. And then he's a Republican that ran and he calls himself a populist Republican in Massachusetts for senator. And, Mr. Smith over here, Beanie Smith or Benny Smith, whatever you want to call him, Bev Harris, more of a liberal, progressive, that kind of thing. Been studying this for a long time. So there's a coalition. And even these guys are standing together and say, yes, this was definitely an algorithm within the computer. Guys, go back and watch it, because I didn't even show the way he plots the graphs X and Y and how he shows his math, because I don't want to explain it because I'm not good at it. I had to watch it twice to understand it. But it is really interesting, fam. And if there's anything you want to talk about,
I just want to note that this is why some people on the left who have never actually looked into this kind of thing are saying that Donald Trump it's impossible that there's fraud, because otherwise the Republicans would have lost all the Senate and the congressional races. So no, actually, that actually proves that there's something up with that, because you can't claim that in these counties that they just didn't vote for Donald, they didn't vote for president in the most important election of our time. When you're breaking records, when Joe Biden literally supposedly
77
had
million,
5 more million votes.
No, it's 7 million.
Oh, now it's 7 million.
It's getting close.
7 million more votes than Barack Obama. You're going to tell me that happened? Are you serious? That you believe that? And so if that is the case, if Joe Biden really got 7 million more votes than Barack Obama, they would have won the House, the Senate, everything.
That's what happened last time when he won.
That's what happened last time.
It didn't happen this time.
That point that you keep fucking regurgitating at me and throwing at me.
You're proving our point.
You're proving our point.
You're proving that there's an algorithm in the machines that they were and that's the thing. There's also reports coming out that I think in Pennsylvania or it was in Michigan, they said president voted only ballots, and it was something like 600,000 for Biden and 1,000 for Donald Trump. For people to just vote for president only. So that's really suspicious, because you can mark a lot of ballots that way and get them in quickly, not go down the line. So this is the last part of this particular right here. This is the conclusion now, and this conclusion is the most important part, because this is what we have to get to. Once again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's about fair elections. It's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It's about getting an election system we can all trust in, that's transparent, and the will of the people will stand, so we can get some real populist policies passed. Let's take a look at them. The conclusion.
Such a coup, Democrats, Republicans, or both, or did Biden win? Now, the conclusion that we have, because ultimately, why are we doing this? Why, an important question is why? I think what we all want is the inputs and the outputs today in our voting systems are unverifiable. That's the unfortunate truth we all have to deal with. And if we don't deal with that, we're sleeping. We're not being real citizens, but this is the God's honest reality. If we take away our rose-colored glasses, for far too long, we've been looking at Venezuela or Afghanistan or other countries. Oh my God, those have banana republics. But the reality is, in the United States voting systems, the inputs and the outputs to our voting systems are unverifiable. That means the evidence is ambiguous.
Yep.
So how do we get out of this? So now that we've identified the real problem, which is first bullet, what's the real solution? Well, here are some attributes of those solutions, we believe. One is we need verifiable inputs. And what that means is we need permanent voter registration, for example. What that means is, wouldn't it be nice if we actually had some way to have a voter registration card? And this gets over the Republican-Democrat rift on this issue. The second issue is open source of software. All of these softwares are owned by a few companies. We can't even go in and see which switches are turning on. It should be open source. The third is hand-marked paper ballots. And Benny, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. The hand-marked paper ballot is such a viable solution to this, because if at any point you want to remove the computers from the process, you can still arrive at an output. That is a true input. The voter intent is enshrined with hand and eye coordination. Yes, there will be some errors, and we can use software to help us with that. But computers they work best when they are automating processes. Anything that's repeatable can be automated, and the process of repeating voting happens over and over again, and it lends itself to automation, and such automation that we can see why a pattern or an algorithm like this. And again, that the documented feature of a weighted election is such a bad idea, and the only thing that can verify to us in a black box is the input. And if we can't know if a weighted election was conducted. It's a feature, it's not a bug. Yeah. So the only way we could get back to that is to for the citizens to be able to remove the computers from the situation. I think in Michigan, what happened was they saw that something was wrong, they bypassed the computer and they hand counted it, and then they got to the true number.
Johnny, can you pause that real quick?
That to get to the true number, you could remove the computers to do so.
All right, Johnny, real quick, I just want to say, and these are a lot of things we talked about: verifiable inputs, permanent voter registration card. We could talk about open source. How many times have we been saying that? How many times have you heard the Convo Couch talk about open source? We can't have proprietary software, hand-marked paper ballots, saved ballot images. We've had Breaky on the show. All these machines, that's why the whole accessibility kind of argument goes into play. Once you scan it through the machine, it takes a picture of it. Therefore, you automatically have a count that can be accessed. Whether it's accessed or not, that's the question, but it's there. And you have to save these things for 22 months. We found that in so many situations, they would ruin this. They would turn this feature off. Once again, the state was trying to say they can turn this feature off, but that's something that's against the law. And they say, and publish them publicly online. Automatic audits right off the bat. We don't have an audit system here. 1% audit, it's ridiculous. You got to audit the whole thing. And publish precinct level data, poll tapes on election night. And that's when I get to where it's casted, it's counted. Those poll tapes that are out in front of the precincts we saw in Florida, you have to publish those and make those public records. Yeah. Some people were taking pictures of them and said, these things are not right. They're not looking good at all.
I'd say public counting, too. Yeah. I'd say make all of that whole process entirely public.
And Dr. Shiva, I took a picture of it just in case they took it down. He said, Mr. President Donald Trump, Mr. Biden, our analysis in Michigan indicates a computer algorithm was likely used to transfer 69,000 votes. We are willing to subject our research results to a critical and transparent review with your representatives. Are you open, Dr. Shiva? He got a claim that this is about election fraud is disputed. Download it. Huh?
What?
It says inventor of email. Did he invent the email?
I have no clue. I didn't even see that last time. That's not on my thing.
No, it's not on our thing.
Oh, how did you get that? Oh, it's on his thing.
Interesting.
Gotcha. It's right there. Inventor of email. Yeah. All right. Really quickly, now it's kind of funny because in this next clip, because we have to get into this donkey over here who makes our life harder, Rudy Giuliani. Somebody was saying, all right, with all this talk, what's going on with the machines? Here's Dr. Shiva. A lot of people talk about the software. Somebody had said, do you have a whistleblower from
By the way,
Dominion?
He did invent.
He did?
Yeah. Indian American sciences engineer politician.
Yeah. Interesting.
And promoter of conspiracy.
Wow.
Promoter of conspiracy. See what they do to him?
Yeah.
Yeah. See what they do to him? And that's the thing. There's actually a rebuttal article on this.
He's notably for his widely discredited claim to be the inventor of email based on the electronic mail software called email he wrote as a New Jersey high school student.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Guy went to MIT. He's got all these degrees, really smart, but they're going
He's a
after him right
conspiracy
now. He's a
theorist.
conspiracy theorist. Pretty much when he was presenting the data on his Massachusetts run for senator. So that's why. But once again, he shows basic data analysis. He has other people to go with him that follow these patterns. So there's something to be looked at. And that's what you really got to look at when you come to these elections. When you see these things, you know something's up. Elections don't move that far, that fast. They simply do not.
No.
And when it's okay for the establishment to call an election early because it benefits them, they stand behind the same type of science. When it doesn't stand to help them, they'll change it. Oh, that's logical. A lot of votes came in from Detroit and the Democratic area. Yeah, 138,390, all for Biden alone. Now, Giuliani explains the lawsuit. People asked him if there was a whistleblower. But this is interesting, fam. Look what he says here.
Asked about is particularly this Dominion voting software. This was the software that was used in Michigan. And in Antrim County, they had Joe Biden up by thousands of votes. They claimed there was a software glitch. It was discovered. It was fixed. And then it turned out that President Trump was actually up by thousands of votes. We know that you and your team have been investigating this. At the present time, do you have any whistleblowers inside Dominion who you're speaking with?
Well, I wouldn't call them whistleblowers. We have a person who's come forward with an affidavit inside of Dominion that has said that Dominion observed the 100,000 phony ballots that were brought in at 4 o'clock in the morning on November 5th that were all Biden ballots that appeared by every measure to be phony ballots since they were brought in the back door. They were not in the proper containers. They were sticking out of the paper bags and cardboard boxes. And they were told that these were ballots that were needed to catch up to Trump because Trump was too far ahead. When they were counted, they were all counted in favor of Biden. The woman who has given us an affidavit, who worked for Dominion, said that she saw not a single Trump vote. She was there for 4 or 5 hours. And it appeared to her to be horribly corrupt. And when she reported it, nothing was done about it. She was told it wasn't any of their business. So that's not a whistleblower. That's a witness on the record in our lawsuit in Michigan, which is why I feel pretty good about the lawsuit. There's a 100,000 vote fraud. Do we have other witnesses for that are somewhat reluctant to come forward right now? Yes. We can probably corroborate that 3 or 4 times. Wow. So I think they're finished on that. I think that's something that actually happened. They brought 100,000 votes in. They were all Biden votes. There was not even a vote for another Democrat. And it was intended because they were panicked because Trump was ahead by much more than they anticipated.
So that was that part right now. It's not a whistleblower, but it's an eyewitness. The vendor was there, access in there. Obviously, they said they kicked a lot of the Republicans out so they couldn't see this. They saw them going in through the back door. They weren't in the proper containers. And that is a little bit something that, once again, I would say that's pretty harsh right now. If they're not stored and transported right according to the laws of the chain of custody for the state, then they're supposed to be invalid. Yeah. So if they're saying they're coming in and just through the back door, boxes, whatnot, okay, fine.
And the problem is this happens all the time, but this is the first time somebody like Donald Trump, for a presidential race, has really pursued it to this level. I mean, even Al Gore, he pursued it, but it wasn't that he didn't pursue multiple states like this. I mean, this is unprecedented with this being pursued. Now, let's look at what Giuliani said that is entirely wrong, because we're fair here. We're not going to skew this narrative that Giuliani is right on everything, because he's not.
Giuliani, you're fucking making our life hell right now.
You are. You're making our life hell.
I mean, and once again, when I saw it, it's not awful, but once again, where are you coming from? It's this boogeyman that they got to present to a lot of their
socialism.
Oh, they got to do. You know what I'm saying? Just leave it out of this shit right now.
An update on Dominion, and how important do you believe the concerns that are being expressed in a number of states about the ability of these machines not to be hacked?
Well, first of all, the machines can be hacked. There's no question about that. Their machines can be hacked, but it's far worse than that. Well, Dominion is a company that's owned by another company called Smartmatic through an intermediary company named Indra. Smartmatic is a company that was formed way back in about 2004, 2003, 2004. You're going to be astonished when I tell you how it was formed. It was formed really by 3 Venezuelans who were very close to the dictator Chavez of Venezuela, and it was formed in order to fix elections. That's the company that owns Dominion. Dominion is a Canadian company, but all of its software is Smartmatic software. So the votes actually go to Barcelona, Spain.
Okay.
So we're using a foreign company that is owned by Venezuelans who are close to Chavez, are now close to Maduro, have a history. They were founded as a company to fix elections. They have a terrible record, and they are extremely hackable.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So, okay, the machines...
Smartmatic is in Venezuela. Okay,
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. But the machines are hackable, yeah, but this has nothing to do with Venezuela. Venezuela has like fair and free elections, unlike we do. We don't have that. They have that. The fact is Venezuelans were able to actually have democracy and transparency in their elections. Countries like Bolivia and the global south have way better elections than we do. The fact is that Maduro, regardless of what you think of him putting in this pro-neocon language, Maduro dictator and Chavez and blah, 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 it's absolutely irrelevant to your case. It completely dismisses and diminishes any sort of credibility that you could possibly fucking have, and it irritates the hell out of me because when we're talking about elections over here and we have to put you in front because you're the one that's doing it, it literally discredits everything you say about the election front because people are like, oh, look at him. He's trying to legitimize elections in Venezuela.
Freaking way.
The Venezuelan elections are fair and free. They're the most fair and free.
And
this is ridiculous.
And the whole thing is the Smartmatic does come from Venezuela. That's where their offices are. You try to kind of like link it down. He eventually tries to connect it to George Soros. But the bottom line remains, when it comes to Smartmatic Dominion, it's not an open source software. We can't see what's going on. It's an easy fix. So him with the dog whistle trying to get those other people involved is kind of stupid right now. I hope he doesn't kind of harp on this stuff. But then the right runs with this. You got Maria Bartiromo, whatever her name is, the Italian girl from Fox. I think she's pretty good when it does a lot of things. But now she's taking this and going, we hear parts are coming from China. It's like, guys, come on. Please just stay fucking focused over here. Stay focused
McCarthyism.
Bullshit.
It's just literally diminishes anything you say. This is what I mean. Like, nobody's really getting this right. Yeah. Even the people pursuing these elections. Yeah. Because you muddy the waters with all this other political crap. Stick on the election issue. Stick on the numbers. Stick on the facts. Do not bring in your political ideologies here. It's just as bad as saying Russians hacked the elections. The Chinese and the Venezuelans are hacking. Why would they want Joe fucking Biden, who literally is all in favor of cooing Venezuela, just the same, of cooing Bolivia, of China taking ships to the South China Sea? This doesn't make any logical sense. You all have to completely abandon your little brainwashing of these ideologies that you've been fed and look at things nuanced, look at things not emotionally, just logically.
Yeah. Let's remember that the Venezuelan policy was Obama's policy, that he labeled them as a threat to the United States, and just Donald Trump was continuing that policy. So, Joe Biden is not going to be sensitive and nice to Venezuela. He's got the same type of mentality when it comes to everything south of the border. Shit, I mean, Joe Biden was part of the administration that took the coup and threw out Manuel Zelaya in Honduras and turned the country into hell, which led to a lot of mass migration over here. So, I mean, this thing is just kind of crazy. Now, it does open up a door where people are going, people who are new to this whole thing on the right are like, let me see who owns this company. Oh, it's owned by another company. Who's owned by another company? Welcome to the game, ladies and gentlemen. We know this 3 years ago, that it's hard to find out who's owning these companies. They're subsidiaries of another company, of another zombie companies, tied to hedge funds where it's proprietary ownership as well as proprietary software. In Michigan State, 2 senators asked for an audit for certification. Just want to point that out. If more people start getting on this bus as far as like, let's make sure that we audit these elections before we certify them. That can lead to more of an autopsy, which we want. I just wanted to point that out in Michigan. So we have that. And a few months ago, AOC blamed voter suppression for Sanders' loss. Let's get this tweet up right here. Fam?
Okay.
We'll play the video?
He's behind. Okay. So AOC basically blamed the rampant voter suppression for Biden beating Sanders by 250,000 votes in Michigan. Now, there was voter suppression. There was a ton of it. But that voter suppression eventually, it's not just voter suppression. It becomes fraud because you are disenfranchising people from their right to vote. You're reducing the amount of polling places, yes, and all of that. But apart from that, it's the machinery and the lack of counting these ballots that were made for people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders. We called this out when this was happening in Michigan. And I just wanted to point out, let's just hear what you said, but I just want to point out that in 8 months, all of a sudden, the Democrats stopped suppressing the vote. Yeah. They stopped committing election fraud. They stopped doing these things.
Yeah.
Last thing, you did a campaign event at the University of Michigan. It had 10,000 people. It was like a rock star status. But those kids did not show up, at least if you look at the numbers. I mean, just overall, this race. Yeah. So how can you say the progressive position is still prevailing nationwide when Joe Biden is winning so much?
Well, I think one thing that isn't being talked about is the rampant voter suppression in this country. Right there in Ann Arbor, where we had that rally, those kids were waiting 3 hours in line to vote in Michigan. And so when we talk about who's turning out and who's not turning out, we absolutely...
So just to be clear, you're saying that you think voters didn't get to vote that wanted to vote in Michigan?
Absolutely. Obviously there's also more that we need to do in terms of turning out youth voters. We need to make sure that we're inspiring young people to turn out. But when you do turn out, you should not be waiting 3, 4, 7 hours in order to vote.
Last thing,
that causes people
you're
to
working
leave.
Within the system now in this legislation.
All right, so not for nothing, fam. Bernie Sanders got the election called on him. She's talking about 250,000 votes. They called it with 54%, and he was down 100,000 votes. Just to say that. Go ahead, fam.
No, yeah. And so it is voter suppression. You're right. We talked about the long lines, kids waiting for hours, 7 hours here, 8 hours here, where they had pizza delivered to them. I mean, this is nothing new. She's saying that. So now that we have COVID, though, it wasn't just the long lines and the lack of polling places. They're going to suppress your vote another way because that is the new situation now. It's COVID. People use the mail-in ballots. So that is election fraud, AOC. You can call it voter suppression, but at the end of the day, somebody is doing that on purpose to disenfranchise voters. That is election fraud, and it's happening again, and it didn't stop just randomly because the Democrats had a hallelujah moment and decided that they were just going to be fair. It didn't stop. Anybody that the establishment, whether it's the Democratic establishment, the Republican, or a combination, in my opinion, is what's happening now, is the whole establishment is whatever they want is what they get. And we haven't had a real election in decades. This is nothing fucking new. So it is hypocritical, okay, to pretend that all of a sudden it's all gone away and like that she didn't say that 8 months ago that it's different. Somebody said, well, this is different. It's different because primaries are they're controlled by the Secretary of State. Yeah. Okay, they're run by the state and the counties.
Absolutely.
It's a county by county issue. Nothing changed from the primary to the general. Nothing. The only thing that changed is that
person,
Donald Trump instead of Bernie Sanders. That's the only thing that fucking changed.
And Clinton Curtis, who we interviewed once before too, he just was running in Florida. He won his primary, lost in the general. He'll run again. You know the whole Clinton Curtis story. He said the solution to this is that for every hour you wait beyond 60 minutes, the county has to give you $100. So if you wait in line for 3 hours, the county owes you $200. If you wait in line for 4 hours, the county's got to give you $300. Fam, they'll straighten out their elections quick if they got to start doling out money left and right, and they'll make it very mellifluous, and they will stop disenfranchising young people to vote because AOC is 100% right over here. The way that you have to wait 2, 3, 4, 7 hours, she jumped, is voter suppression, and they shouldn't have that done. That is by design. And by the way, that was your party who was doing that to these kids, just to let you know. Zach Curtis, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Can we expect fair elections with money in politics? I think not. I believe you're right there, my man. Carl FXI, more fee rants, hashtag rants 2024. She goes crazy, the rants. Kat Terrell, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. I had to do one of those, fam. Just one of them. And we have a couple more. We'll just get rid of them real quick, and we'll move on to the next subject. Here it is. Sidney Powell, General Flynn's lawyer. We know about Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell's mentioned so many things, everything from Hammer and Scorecard to the Anthony Weiner's laptop. This woman's involved in a lot of things. She seems to be sticking to the facts. Check her out. She even called for Bernie Sanders to call out the election fraud against him. You know, she has. And, you know, this woman seems like a sensible woman. Everything she talks about, she's talked about getting stuff to military intelligence because she believes that our State Department is just littered with a bunch of spooks who are global elitists. And
that is a fact. That is
yeah.
not.
AOC makes me so sad. And her making a list of Trumpers is CIA AF.
Yeah.
Jordan Allen, thank you for the super chat contribution.
Jordan.
Her making that list is that mean little nasty authoritarian streak they have in them that is really disgusting. They're getting it right on purpose. The Repubs don't want election fraud exposed either. Neither side wants to talk about this subject honestly. Thank you, Red Sea Socialists. We love you. We love your work.
Agreed.
We love you online. Rudy, come on, man, says the sergeant. Thank you for the super chat contribution. Yeah, I was like, come on, man.
The people are the only ones that want this, real. Like the people like us, the people that actually want to run to get somebody in office that is actually going to listen to what we want. They're the ones that actually want everything exposed. But the people in power at the very top on both sides, a lot of these people don't want this shit exposed. A lot of people on the right as well as the left do not want any of this because it implicates both of them. That is 100% true.
Yeah. Now, listen, the only reason why I put this next one up real quick, and we're just going to talk about this because two people on the phone yesterday on my phone calls told me about this stuff. They couldn't confirm it, but what they're saying is that they're getting reports that in Nevada, the AI and the computer vision experts are telling us that after manually lowering the signature settings, the computer they used for signature verification in Nevada is not reliable. 200,000 votes counted, 400,000 plus signatures had no observation. Now, fam, I haven't been able to confirm this, but like I said, I heard from two people on the phone, and they're starting to run this down. You broke the story from Whitney Webb. We should have her on the show soon. And we saw this kind of ourselves when we went and saw the validation of signatures are being used by machinery where it was traditionally sat around a table and Republicans and Democrats can go over it to make sure it's there. Now they're they're using machinery to verify the signatures and passing it through. The only thing is that you can set the sensitivity level on low and pretty much a scribble will go through. I can't confirm this. I've heard about this. I'm going to chase this down to see what's going on. Supposedly, there's a lot of stuff breaking in Nevada, a lot of fuckery going around that we're going to hear more of in the next couple of days. So just stay tuned to that. And thank you all for those super chat contributions, guys. It really does help us out. We have 461 watching on the YouTubes. We have 32 on the Rokfin. Let's get up to 50 on Rokfin. Watch on both if you can, guys. We really need your help. Next one, Dominion Voting Systems Report in 2019. Supported by your good friend Elizabeth Warren and others as insecure. Fam.
Yes, fam.
Why isn't it insecure this election?
Okay, so so let's look first. I'm gonna break this down a bit. Let's look at first because Robbie Yeager, of course, from the MCSC network, broke this down pretty well, and I'm just gonna go through it really quickly. This was from a 2019 report. So it's a year-old report on Dominion voting systems. Now, we've been talking about Dominion for a while. This is nothing new. The democracy suite system, so just so you know, there's different types of machines by Dominion. But democracy suite by Texas Secretary of State determined numerous vulnerabilities and issues in the software and hardware, such as a convoluted setup, lost adjudication results, incorrect prompts, and power failures. Certification was recommended and denied. In fact, it was denied every single time. And we can just look at the first graphic, Johnny. I'm just going to go through the highlighted parts. The installation is complex, error-prone, and tedious. These are among the concerns. The test voting, number 2. During our voting test, we discovered that some party names and proposition text were not displayed, and one scanner was not accepting some ballots. I saw this happen actually in California. Okay. It's definitely happened multiple times to multiple people I know. 3. Misleading message. The ballot marking devices incorrectly informed voters that they were casting their ballot when in fact they were only printing them. This is very, very reminiscent of our system here in Los Angeles. The ballots are not to be counted until they are scanned on a different device. So this is what a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. And that's the sidestep that Alex Padilla tried to say. Oh, it was the ballot marking devices were open source, not the tabulation machines.
Right.
And we couldn't even get the source code anyways.
So the USB port vulnerability, the ICX ballot marking device has an indicator light on the top to show the poll workers when the station is in use, and that light is connected by a USB port. Okay, so they said it doesn't always worked. When a USB drive with files was inserted, the ICX sometimes complained and sometimes did not. Apparently, according to the content of the USB drive and whether it was present when the ICX was first powered up or inserted later. No, and the conclusion that they reached in this particular study said, nevertheless, I cannot recommend certification. Computer systems should be designed to prevent or detect human error whenever possible and minimize consequences of both human mistake and equipment failure. In my opinion, it should not be certified for use in Texas, saying that democracy suite is fragile and error prone. So that's just one aspect that they were citing was completely
It reminds me of the test out
inaccurate.
here, fam, on our new printers and stuff. Like, you can only, your printer can jam like 1 out of 100 times was the legal limit, right? Our printers were jamming here in California, the new ones that were made with these new machines that the Alex Padilla was bragging about, and $340 million that cost them, were jamming 1 out of every 101 times. It was completely illegal. And that little glitch, that little mess up right there, we went and saw people filling in provisional ballots because why? Because they couldn't get their ballot back in the machine because it was jamming. So they were literally pushing people into provisional ballots that way. And and they tell the poll workers it's the same thing. So tell people it's the same thing. So then we lose our shit in the middle of in East LA as they put this little small polling station for Eastern Latinos over there that they got to sit there and wait in line while you go over to friggin' Glendale over there or wherever we were in La Cañada, and they got 30 machines and a ton of workers, and they're giving out tea with lemon and stuff, and you can easily cast a ballot and stuff. Not a provisional. It's a one-sided system. It really just helps the elites, the legislation, and it takes away from the people trying to really make fair and free elections. So it's terrible.
So after the examination ended, in the recommendation of not certifying the Dominion voting's democracy suite, further reports, of course, in Texas by the Texas State Department questioned whether it was suitable for its intended purpose and if operated efficiently. If it operated efficiently and accurately. Again, it was denied. You guys can see here
they threw
all
them out.
these
They
people
said no. Yeah.
with the preliminary statement report of review Dominion voting system democracy suite 5.5, and you guys can see there what they did, the study and the people involved, and then the next one, it shows, let me just read a little bit of this part.
The findings.
Were under the findings, Johnny. The examiner reports identified multiple hardware and software issues that preclude the Office of the Texas Secretary of State from determining that the Democracy Suite 5.5 satisfies each of the voting system requirements set forth in the Texas Election Code. Specifically, the examiner reports raised concerns about whether this Democracy Suite 5.5 preserves the secrecy of the ballot, is suitable for its intended purpose, operates efficiently and accurately, and is capable of permitting straight party voting. So there's that. Thus, the Democracy Suite voting system and corresponding hardware devices do not meet the standards for certification as prescribed, blah, blah, blah. Accordingly, based upon the foregoing, I hereby deny certification of Dominion Voting Systems Democracy Suite 5.5.
And they threw them out of Texas. Dominion's not in there because they said, no way, we're going to use these machines.
Yep.
Giuliani talked about that too as well, our good friend, before he blamed the ghost of Chavez and China. But they did not certify them. They got a different machines when it comes to Texas because, once again, these machines are vulnerable for hacking. And it's just so many ins and outs to these whole situations, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get rid of these machines. All the companies, whether it be ES&S, whether it be Dominion, whether it be Hart, whether it be Smartmatic, they are all vulnerable, and you can easily put algorithms in there. They're only good for one thing, and that's what we all did. We took it outside. We beat the shit out of the computer. That's what you need to do to these things, because they shouldn't be used. We need open source softwares from vendors that are made right here in the United States, fam. They're right here on our doorstep. There's so many people that can do this, but yet we got to go outside the country, have proprietary software. We don't know who owns the companies, and now you don't know if your results in your elections are true or fair.
So let me just finish up here. Texas official reviewed the Dominion's Democracy Suite at least six separate occasions. You guys can actually look at this link right here, and it shows the 6 different reports. All of them said, the last one was Tom Watson PDF. All of them were denied certification. I don't know if you guys want to look at that. You can. And the further reports on the Dominion voting machines confirmed that they could be connected to the internet via Ethernet ports. We were told when we went to New Hampshire, no, they're not connected to the internet. It's fine. Not true. They can totally be connected. And many of the security features are not automatic. So this relied on the users to complete setup. So again, this isn't really talked about very often, but a lot of the times the machines, if they messed up, these poll workers, they don't know how to fix them. So again, this is how you disenfranchise people. You give them provisional ballots, etc. So the specific issue raised during the inspection was number one. As was the case with the 5.5 system, some of the hardware in the 5.5A system can be connected to the internet, like we said, through the ports. And then, of course, the problem with adjudication position of the tabulation process was dismissed by Dominion officials as a bad path, but the Dominion never showed why a bad path occurred or how it could be avoided for users. The previous poor resolution on the scanner for some of the printed wording on the ballots was dismissed either as damaged equipment or a setting issue, but they never fixed it. So this is one of the reasons why they never
crazy that Texas
certified.
Has to do this? Texas, right? Like in California, if they don't get the certification needed, the independent report says they shouldn't use the machines, and Alex Padilla certifies it. Right,
Yeah.
Alex Padilla just goes and certifies the shit. Right here in Texas, they're doing their due diligence at least. I'm sorry, fam. Go ahead.
So according to more reports, an examiner was able to hook his phone to the Dominion voting machine via a USB port, and though the machine logged the event, it's unclear whether the system would have allowed the transfer of data. Let me break it to you. It would have. It goes to question the system's reliability, and you guys can go ahead and look that up yourself. And then he kind of points out, in theory, the system could be certified for use in Texas with a hefty list of conditions. However, there would still be significant concerns with the reliability of the system, the flaws and questionable design choices that were identified through this exam. That indicates that the system is not suitable for the purpose of which it is intended, and therefore cannot be certified for use in Texas under the Texas Election Code. Okay, so that's that, and you can see here that he also posted the Dominion voting various systems and machines are used practically statewide in California, Michigan, Alaska, Nevada, Georgia, New Mexico, and Colorado. Also parts, of course, of Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and others. So you guys can see that the swing states are the ones also using these machines. This is fact. You can't deny this. This isn't anything ideologically based. You're so obnoxious.
Sorry. It's just so stupid, the fact that they're all in these states right now. People are like, yeah, the elections are fine. At least can we point out the fact that the elections are not fine? Jesus.
Yeah, so there's that. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that Warren and Amy Klobuchar actually expressed concerns about these machines for obvious reasons just last year in 2019. And of course, he also brought the receipts here, Mr. Rubito. And he said, look, the Democrats had apparently had concerns over election integrity. The companies tied to private equity firms. In 2019, Dem Senators Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar wrote letters to three firms, including Staple Street, owners of the Dominion voting, questioning their motives. So I'm not going to read the letter, but you guys can see that here's the letter right there. And then let's look at the Elizabeth Warren .Senate.gov and what they said. This is what Elizabeth Warren said. Warren, Klobuchar, Wyden. And Spokane investigate vulnerabilities and shortcomings of election technology industry with ties to private equity. Okay, yes, our machines are tied to private equity.
How long have we been saying this for?
Forever. 3 private equity-owned election technology vendors serve 90% of eligible voters, but fail to sufficiently innovate, improve, and protect deteriorating voting systems. Election security experts have noted for years that our nation's voting systems and election infrastructure are under serious threat. So they listed all of these things, literally all these things they listed literally a year ago. What happened, Democrats? Why all of a sudden is it a conspiracy theory to question your election system in this country when you literally questioned it a year ago, months ago? This whole thing was questioned by people. Suddenly it doesn't exist. Suddenly it's nothing. Suddenly it doesn't matter because Donald Trump is at the ticket. This is a hypocrisy that is sinking the Democratic Party, where people look at the Democratic Party and they look at the Republican Party and they look at the Republican Party has a horrible ideology that I do not agree with in a lot of ways, but they're transparent about their horrible ideology, whereas the Democratic Party lies and pretends that they don't have a horrible ideology when they actually do, and that is to a lot of people much worse than just the fascist face that you get. Like, Joe Biden is the friendly fascist. I mean, this is the guy that is going to literally marry the NSA, the CIA, and all of these spooks in our government, and it's going to be it's going to get worse because of that. And here we are, these same Democrats like Elizabeth Warren now saying that Donald Trump is a conspiracy theorist, that all these people are pulling conspiracy theory, when a year ago they were literally listing all the things wrong with our machinery.
Yeah. All right, 90% of the vendors serve 90% of the eligible voters. So 90% are connected to private equity firms that control our elections. We've been saying this from the get-go. Our elections are owned by these private equity firms, by corporations that can do whatever they want. Our leaders, our lawmakers are not elected. They are selected. It's plain and simple. Now you have this here from NBC News, online and vulnerable. Go ahead, fam.
Yeah, so just online, the experts find nearly 3,000 U.S. voting systems connected to the internet, saying that these are vulnerable, and these are election security experts that use Google for service to challenge claims that voting machines do not connect to the internet, and found they did. So all these claims that are saying that these machines, they don't connect to the internet, they're not hackable, they're fine. No, they're not. And people know this. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm showing you this because this has been an issue for a while now. Yeah. It's just that people are pretending it's not an issue because it doesn't meet their political narrative. It doesn't meet their political ideology now that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are going at it right now. And Johnny, that's the problem.
Did we find any kind of evidence ourselves, the Convo Couch, when we went to a state right now, that there's a possibility where a poll worker said, no, they're not connected to the internet, but they had something going on in New Hampshire? What did they have that we found? Because I remember I was like, wow, and I had to go look at what they can do, the capability, and yes, it's therefore they can access the internet. Tell the people.
Yeah, New Hampshire, the election worker told us that they had SIM cards in the counting machines. And SIM cards, is what activates your phone to connect to a, 4G, 5G, 3G network. So then, but why is it in a count? It literally just counts ballots. I mean,
yeah.
It's like a modem of sorts, right? It acts as a device where you can get in the internet, get in there.
So why is a SIM card in there? So that's this ain't new.
This is all old stuff for a while. And once again, if we had open source and then audit with 100% hand count right after in public in the eyes, where it's casted, it's counted. You're gonna clear up so many things. Justin B, thank you for the super chat contributions. Super chatting to support the awesome work from Fee, Pasta, and Johnny, who are putting into uncovering election fraud. Keep it going, fam. Justin, thank you so much, because we do get a lot of shit for this right now. And Carrie Mark here in Lurkistan and Rokfin, just listening in to the best media. Thank you, Convo Couch.
Thank you, Carrie.
Carrie Mark, thank you so much for your support. And thank you, everybody, for your support today. Very generous with the super chat contributions. It's helping us out because you know that YouTube demonetizes everything. I'm surprised we don't have the warning today that says, hey, man, the election's been called with the thing. There's 468 of you right now watching on the Rokfin. Mike Fagan just joined the party. Sarah's there. Pishmon's still hanging out. Go, Progressive Update. We love you guys all. Thank you, guys. Get over to this Rokfin. Help us out. Ivan's over there. Ivan Tarovsky, our good friend. Send the vodka. And we're going to get to Johnny to wrap up right now on the last subject. Johnny.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to update on Raji Rab's case, and so I'm just going to show this here. So for those who don't know, Raji Rab has been fighting in court for it's been almost 8 months now, since March, and so basically the court has been delaying Raji's case, giving frivolous reasons and siding with Dean Logan and Alex Padilla, and because they're siding with Dean Logan and Alex Padilla, the Secretary of State, because that's who the lawsuit is against, along with the L.A. Board of Supervisors. Right. So Raji had filed his Second Amendment writ, which is basically his lawsuit, right? His complaint, the lawsuit, the writ. And he had to amend it once. He amended it one time because he was legally allowed to do that. But then when they tried to dismiss the case, the judge granted the dismissal with leave to amend. So Raji could amend his case, his lawsuit, to then and file it again, right? So he did that, and that's why it's called the Second Amended Writ. And so then the opposition filed another demur, another trying to dismiss it, and that's where they admitted that the machines are accessible. They're just saying that there's no evidence that Dean Logan accessed it. And so they just admitted that it's accessible before November 3rd, 2020, when they scan the ballots. So it's accessible, which makes the machine illegal according to 15101B, Election Code 15101B. So the opposition filed a demur to Raji's Second Amendment writ, and then the judge immediately, and they asked for a date of January 2021 for a hearing date for the demur. So that's like so far away, right? It's in next year. And the judge approved the date. So Raji's like, what the heck? You know, he wanted it done before the elections, and then now it's after the election. So they filed their demur, and so there's nothing else to wait for. So why do we have to wait until January 2021? So he filed an ex parte or an emergency order. Let me show you what it says for an ex parte. An ex parte order is one that is made without the other party being made aware of it. They often provide instant relief, albeit on a temporary basis. They are issued when immediate relief is needed and when scheduling a regular hearing and providing notice to the other party is not feasible. So basically what Raji is saying is that it's in the public interest. He's saying right here, respondents are delaying the matter to be heard long after general elections are over on January 22nd, 2021, and this is detrimental to public interest. The matter must now be decided because they already submitted their demur, and she has the Second Amendment writ, and they have the opposition has the request for dismissal. So just freaking decide on it now. So today, previously when Raji had filed an ex parte order, the judge immediately responded in 2 business days. So this time it's been taking 5 business days. And so Raji was expecting a hearing today, hearing on the ex parte, to then decide if the demur hearing will happen sooner or in January 2021. So then so he called today, and he called and no one answered. The court's not answering. You can see the live stream of the judge. She's handling other cases, and then when she went on break, Raji's calling. He's calling 4 times. The clerk of that court 23, isn't answering. So then Raji called like the presiding judge's court, and then he was able to get the clerk of that court to answer and call Raji back, and then he notified Raji that the judge will be responding today. So this is just a little update, a little deep into what's going on with Raji's case. Like, it's crazy what's happening. The judge is siding with the opposition. The judge in her previous thing says, this is what Raji says, he's saying the ex parte application is made on the basis of emergency to prevent irreparable harm to the petitioner, the public, and the Constitution. Expedited hearing and decision will stop malconduct from escaping justice, as this case has been in court for the past 7 months on technical delays evading fraud and malconduct, where interpretations of law, issue of national interest, and public interest is at stake. This is petitioner's repeated request to shorten time on the most heated topic of national significance and public interest. Judge Earl stated in her order back in September, which speaks volumes to safeguard the public interest. She said in an order previously, arguably, however, this case raises issues of substantial and continuing public interest that arises from situations that are capable of repetition, yet evading review. And the court may thus decide this case even if it is technically moot.
There you go.
So even though, what she means by technically moot is that even if the elections have passed.
Yeah, even if the elections are certified and they get somebody in, that they would say, oh, it's moot, but no, it's not, because if it constantly happens in the public's interest, in other words, it continually happens,
in the future.
We should go back. Exactly. And I think that's an interesting point, that even though they might certify the results and somebody might be seated and they're saying, oh, let's cancel this case because it doesn't mean anything. No, if it constantly happens, we got to go look back at the actual actions that are taking place and fix them for the future. And Johnny, I just also want to point out too that when Johnny was reading about this, as far as what the accessibility thing, we went and witnessed them at the Pomona situation take the mail-in ballots, send them to Downey. We went over to Downey. We saw them processed through the machine before Election Day.
Johnny,
And
can
that's,
can you just give, because some people may be hearing about this the first time, can you literally just say what he is accusing them of doing?
All right, so Raji was a candidate in March 3rd, 2020 primary, and he thinks he got cheated. And then his reasoning for thinking that is because on the night of, New York Times called his race immediately, and he's like, "How did they get those numbers so quickly?"
Here we go.
And then he went over there and he asked them when did they started scanning, because he's like, "How did those numbers get out so quickly?" And that's when an election official there told him they started scanning 10 days prior to the election, to the March 3rd election. And then he's like, "Wait, so these machines are tallying and scanning?" And then someone said yes, and then they changed their mind and they said no.
Yeah, just scanning.
It's just scanning.
There's no count.
There's no tallying or counting. And then it turns out that, yes, this machine scans the ballots, takes the ballot image, decodes voter intent, and then converts it to a cast vote record instantaneously. And I believe the next step is that it puts it in somewhere, and then it can be all decoded and counted immediately.
The state is arguing, or the county is arguing, that they don't press a button to get the numbers results, that it's just stored. But Raji is arguing that once it's casted, it's counted, it's scanned, it's in there. It could be accessed at any point now.
Right.
Through the back end. You can access the computer with a USB, take it, change the results, put another USB back in there and uploaded that. That if early counting is early fraud, it gives you early information. It's like knowing the opponent's playbook that you have beforehand, and that is the argument.
But recently, so Raji, in his Second Amendment raid, he got 2 experts with 20 plus years of IT and computer science, and they made the statement that yes, the machines are accessible. And then, like I said earlier, the opposition admitted that it was accessible, but they said now they're saying that they didn't access it, and there's no evidence for them accessing it. Although you could get evidence through Cassandra log files.
But they don't want to give those up.
But they don't want to do it. What's it called? It's an inspection of the whole system.
The whole discovery part, right?
So yeah, it's part. I believe there can be a court order. Like we show up with the sheriffs and stuff, and we have a court order. But then it's like somebody has to let you inspect it, right?
Call your best friend Villanueva Pasta, and let's see if we can get
it doesn't make a difference, because they'll never let you go look at the software. That's the whole thing. When I've talked to Tim Canova, it's like everybody gets this far, but as soon as they get a chance to look at that software, it's proprietary, and they're halted immediately. And they'll even pull tricks like saying, "Oh, the machines are moved. We can't go in there and look." Johnny, was there any evidence that these machines were moved?
No.
I mean, they'll keep moving the goalposts. They'll do this shit all the time. But that's the thing. The quick fix. No more proprietary software, only open source that we can look at so we can see what's going on.
But this is what happens, just so I just want to reiterate this point, emphasize this fucking point. This is happening in California. The Democratic supermajority, the beacon of progressivism, the state that is run by people like Dianne Feinstein, Kamala Harris, who literally just gave a resolution for the Dodgers and the Lakers for winning and bringing back wins in this country, but can't give a fucking stimulus, or can't even talk about how they're helping people that are becoming homeless every day as they're getting evicted now. No, they can't talk about that. This is happening in the bastion of progressivism here in the state of California by these Democrats, by the Democratic establishment. So you can't fucking tell me that the Democrats just wouldn't do that all of a sudden, that the Democrats aren't cheating. They're cheating here in this state, in the 5th largest economy. You're going to tell me that they're not going to cheat in the general? Come on, guys.
And really,
seriously?
to tell you the truth, this affects down-ballot candidates. This affects progressives
Absolutely.
trying to take over incumbent seats that are neoliberals, that are holding the fort down for the establishment and not letting us in the door. This is where they cheat. And I'm saying, if you okay the cheating against Donald Trump, you're not just okaying the cheating against any progressive, you're giving them a permission slip to do so. You're actually encouraging them to do so. And that's what happened in 2016 when it came to the Jared Beck case. When the Democratic Party said, we can, not only did we cheat, we have the right to cheat, to go in the back room full of cigar smoke and pick whoever we want. We didn't plant the flag there, so what are they doing? They're continuing to cheat even more, and they're moving the goalpost every chance they can get, whether it be now just verifying signatures that can go through at any time, right? And who are they going to cheat against in California? Your Maria Estradas, your Angelica Dueneses, your Joe Collinses, anybody like James Bradley, any Republicans and Democrats that have more of a populist mindset that want to remove these incumbents that have been sitting there for so long, running California into the fucking grave right now. That's so awful with the homelessness and businesses closing, and it's ridiculous to live here and stuff, and we're going to have more people on the streets. These incumbents won't get out of the way, and they're using this mechanism, I believe, of cheating their elections to keep their power. Johnny?
Yeah. Oh, I just want to let y'all know to subscribe to True Rebel Network because I'm releasing some bombshell reports. I've been in the LARCC since November 6th. And I've been reporting I've been documenting my days every time about how not transparent everything is, about suspicious activities happening. So I'm definitely going to be releasing some videos here soon. I'm just trying to get to all the answers before I release videos and make claims. So just subscribe here, and it's going to be coming out. It's going to be coming out.
Johnny kept a good log, so he's been doing a lot of work on this. Like I said, he just got thrown out of the audit room the other day, and we've been thrown out of the people's audit in Florida. Listen, the elections here, they are a cesspool of just corruption.
It's nothing new.
Lacking transparency. Like I said, our officials are not elected; they're selected because this system is just out of line. And whether you like Donald Trump or you hate him, we need to get this fixed. So we should all be calling for election integrity.
Yep. And I don't think it's going to be fixed this time, you guys. There's just too much. People
are starting to open up to the mechanisms, though. At least now they're seeing who owns the
people
machines,
on the right. Just
how do you fix these things, and now they're to the party.
Just don't fall for the narratives that this is the China or Venezuela or Russia. That's all no, you don't need to look to these foreign fucking countries. This corruption is coming directly from within. It is coming from within the people here. They're cheating the American people. That's where it's coming from. It's not coming from outside people. They want you to blame and look elsewhere while the cesspool, the corruption, the rot is right here in front of your eyes. And they don't want you to see that. They want you to keep hating each other and fighting each other. So you blame one or the other. Oh, no, it's the Republicans. Oh, it's the Democrats. No, it's the whole fucking system cheating the American people from getting the things that they want to get, the things that they need to get at this point. And it's not going to stop until we stop it ourselves.
Yeah. And if we allow this to go unchecked, it's just going to get worse too as well. Yep. I mean, the fact that, once again, I'm looking at the pattern analysis and stuff and looking at those things, and that's where you look. Because all the time, all these Democrats, what Raj, you experienced, how are you calling this election? Oh, we have the mail-in information, we have it early, what's going on, whatnot, and stuff. So, and they use the science that, the jumps don't go that far, that a pattern is created within the first 20, 30%, right? Okay, now it's going to go the rest of the way. So if it moves, if that's there, that parabolic effect, something's going. Somebody's changing somebody. Somebody's either changing the numbers in the back end. Somebody's either bringing in ballots. But something fake and phony is going on, and we have to call it out for what it is. Now we have witnesses seeing that people are bringing in ballots. We heard about this in Milwaukee as well. It was just too, and somebody had told me, he's like, you know what? The thing that really disappointed me is that late at night, right when we were talking to Jimmy, right before we were talking to Jimmy, we were saying, look at our thing. What's going on, Kyle? What's going on, Cenk? What happened with your maps? And then the next day, we got caught with our foot in our mouths. No, we didn't get caught with our foot in our mouths. That's where they cheated the election in the still of the night. Yeah. You don't make up that many, 138,000 ballots or 138,000 votes, whether it be the machine, the tabulation, or the ballots. It doesn't happen like that. No. It's just, you know what I'm saying? And none of the other candidates, the Libertarians, the Greens, nobody else on that ballot got votes. Only Joe Biden. He got 138,390 votes. That doesn't happen at the 94 percentile. At the 94 percentile? Why weren't they calling it around the 70%?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Where was it earlier?
Hello?
Come on,
now,
guys.
if he got 130,000 person dump, if Bernie Sanders, if you're going to say that that's real, that could happen, then why did they call it against Bernie when it was 54% when he was 100,000 down? If he got 1/3 of that 40,000, let's say, vote just out of nowhere in Bernie Sanders' area, now he's within striking distance with 40% to go. Why would they call the election that fast when it's against Bernie Sanders or it's against the progressives, against you, ladies and gentlemen? Why did they do that? Think about it.
It's just so obvious to people who look at these things. It's just so obvious
that they're cheating this shit. So, all right, let's get out of here. Johnny, is that it? True Rebel Network, Patreon, guys. Thank you so much for the PayPals. We do appreciate all those PayPals that have been coming in. We really can use the help, but we do appreciate it. We know it's hard times. If you can't afford anything, just watch us, subscribe, like and share. Give us the thumbs up. We got a lot of trolls and a lot of people hating on us. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue spinning on those ones and twos.
Convo out.